Goosebumps SlappyWorld is the sixth mainline incarnation of the popular kids' horror comedy book series Goosebumps by R.L. Stine, not counting the Choose Your Own Adventure Give Yourself Goosebumps series. Starting their release in 2017, the SlappyWorld books were focused on the single most popular Goosebumps villain of all, the evil ventriloquist dummy, Slappy. But how did the series come to be? What inspired the artwork and design? What lies within the printed pages of each story, and what merchandise and products were tied into the SlappyWorld book series? Hi, I'm Matt Barton. Join me as I take a look back at the series' inception, artwork and design, the 20 books themselves, and tie-ins like the 2015 Goosebumps film, 2023 Disney Plus show, and video games. Without further ado, here is my look back at Goosebumps SlappyWorld. To celebrate the Goosebumps 20th anniversary, the Most Wanted series was released, as well as a tie-in special edition, Wanted: The Haunted Mask. The series was viewed positively amongst general audiences and longtime fans of Goosebumps. During the tail end of the Most Wanted run of books, Sony's 2015 film Goosebumps was released in cinemas across the globe. Starring Jack Black as R.L. Stine himself, the film was also a success critically and financially. With the success of the film and a sequel greenlit by the studio, Scholastic was gearing up for the next Goosebumps book series incarnation, as Stine completed his 20-book Most Wanted contract in October 2016. In March of 2016, Save the Children hosted a Facebook Q&A session with R.L. Stine, where Scholastic donated 20,000 books to disadvantaged areas. During the session, Stine responded to fan questions, sharing that the Most Wanted series was indeed coming to an end. Stine also revealed the name of the new, upcoming series, Goosebumps SlappyWorld. Many fans were surprised the new series was name-dropped and announced so casually, with no official announcement beforehand. In fact, many speculated it was a joke, but it was no joke. And just months later, Stine responded to another question, this time on Twitter, name-dropping the first title of the SlappyWorld series, well before it was officially revealed. Having used Slappy as the main villain for the Goosebumps film, and having seen major success with the Horrorland series title, it was no wonder that Scholastic and R.L. Stine desired a new series title that would merge the two together. Thus, the series title SlappyWorld was developed for the next Goosebumps series. A series that would celebrate the Goosebumps 30th anniversary. Scholastic, for the next series, wanted a design for the characters, especially the most popular character, the title character Slappy, that would match that of the film design for the characters. And the artwork and design decisions do not end there. The SlappyWorld books were potentially one of the most cohesively designed of the different incarnations of the Goosebumps book series. The books, though keeping the Scholastic redesign of the Goosebumps logo, colored the logo green. This sort of pea green color, and green in general, has become synonymous with the Goosebumps series over time. Having been used repeatedly, the Goosebumps series is most recognizable with a green hue. This cohesive labeling helped to set a standard look for the series, as did the red spines across every book in the series, made standard with the prior Most Wanted books. The artwork for the SlappyWorld books was very different than any other Goosebumps incarnation for one main reason. The characters, especially the title character Slappy, the evil ventriloquist dummy, were redesigned for the new series. This is not the first time the characters have went through artwork redesigns. Tim Jacobus, cover illustrator of the original Goosebumps series and Series 2000, tweaked Slappy's design over the years to make the character more appealing to kids, growing more in line with the spooky but wacky vibe the main Goosebumps series adopted over time, rather than just the initial pure horror design, which was my personal favorite. The characters were all redesigned upon Scholastic's purchasing of the Goosebumps rights in 2003, with cover art for the 2008 Horrorland series by new illustrator Brandon Dorman. Dorman redesigned the characters, allowing them to escape the 90s spooky but goofy charm, introducing more fantastical, fantasy-inspired elements into the artwork. Dorman's Slappy design rivaled the original in terms of creep factor. But one thing set the SlappyWorld redesign apart from the previous redesigns, even though the books were illustrated by the same artist, Brandon Dorman. The characters, and especially Slappy, were modeled specifically off of the 2015 Goosebumps film designs. The idea was to create cohesion between the books, movies, and other media, that Slappy would look the same on the page, on the screen, and even right behind you. Not all, of course, but most of Dorman's SlappyWorld books were far less dynamic than those in the Horrorland and Hall of Horrors books, instead using a similar look to the Most Wanted books. A flat, colored background, either red, green, purple, or blue in most cases, with the main villain front and center. Again, this was not always the case, as some of the titles featured cover art more in line with Dorman's more dynamic and interesting works. But one thing is very clear. The SlappyWorld series was meant for a younger audience than any previous series. The characters and monsters are nearly all goofier and fantastical than any other Goosebumps series. Very few of the cover works were even somewhat scary, none really giving the viewer goosebumps. In fact, the SlappyWorld branding itself is much more childish than previous incarnations as well. Whether this was intentional, or simply Scholastic attempting to find a way to use the Slappy film design and a similar series title to the uber-popular Horrorland series is undetermined, though critical reception on the designs, series title, and the title character himself, Slappy's writing and dialogue, was very mixed. Many people were disappointed that the series leaned even more into comedy, rather than a more eerie tone like the original series, Series 2000, and even Horrorland. Fans did seem to enjoy the individual book titles, which often referenced pop culture and even other Goosebumps installments. The book covers, when side by side, all look good together, despite their orientation towards a younger audience. And though reception to how R.L. Stine's brand new Goosebumps book series was packaged was mixed, the meat and potatoes of Goosebumps hasn't always been just the artwork and design. No, the most important part of every good book is the story itself. The Goosebumps SlappyWorld book series was the longest-running official incarnation of Goosebumps, spanning 20 books over 6 years. Each year saw the release of 3 new SlappyWorld entries, aside from the series' final year, 2023, which saw only 2 releases to complete the 20-book run. Some of the stories featured multiple parts, prologues, and epilogues, more complicated than a standard Goosebumps entry. Before the main story, in a similar vein to that of the Hall of Horrors and Most Wanted introductory sections, Slappy the evil ventriloquist dummy gives a quick introduction to the story, as well as gives a brief conclusion after the story. Occasionally, Slappy also breaks up the stories to interject his terrible jokes. Yes, Stine used Slappy more for comedy than scares in this series, often with really cringy dialogue, even reported to be so by the children that were the target demographic for the series, not just longtime fans. Slappy works best when he is creepy or spooky, and especially in the intros, interjections, and conclusions, he is very much not. But those are only a small aspect of this book series, and don't impact the plots of each main story in the slightest. So, without further ado, here are the 20 SlappyWorld books. On February 28th, 2017, the first book in the series, Slappy Birthday to You, was released, following main character Ian Barker, who lives in a doll hospital. Rather, his father uses their basement to repair broken dolls. Slappy arrives at the doll hospital, and Ian is gifted the doll for his birthday since Slappy arrived with no return address. Ian finds the slip of paper with the magic words and brings the dummy to life. Then Slappy begins to terrorize the family, even as just the headless dummy body toward the end, though the story retreads similar ground to that of the Night of the Living Dummy 2 story, with the family talent show pranks. It was interesting and eerie, just like Slappy should be. Aside from his dialogue, which has gotten somehow even less serious since the Most Wanted books. The second book in the series switched from the classic spooky comedy tone to an action-adventure story called Attack of the Jack. The title references the popular Attack of the Jack-o'-lanterns book. Siblings Violet and Sean arrive at Sea Urchin Cove to stay at a creepy haunted lighthouse with their Uncle Jim. Staying at a haunted lighthouse isn't bad enough, as soon the kids find a locked door with a secret treasure chest. A chest containing jack-in-the-boxes resembling pirates. And before they know it, Violet and Sean are taken on a terrifying pirate ship, held hostage by one of the jack-in-the-boxes they found, who transformed from the kid's toy into a real pirate. Their captor, Captain Jack the Knife. The third book, I Am Slappy's Evil Twin, is another reference, this time to Goosebumps Series 2000 book number 6, I Am Your Evil Twin. The references do not end there, as in the prologue following Slappy's introduction, Slappy's backstory is slightly reworked. Slappy, along with twin Snappy, were created by a runaway magician named Franz Mahar. Kandu the sorcerer taught Mahar spells to bring his puppets to life. The second reference to another Goosebumps story was Mahar's first dummy, Mr. Wood. Kandu brought Mr. Wood to life, making him evil, so Mahar fled the country, growing so lonely he eventually made Slappy and the other puppets, bringing them to life with the spells, so he wouldn't be lonely anymore. Mahar's first dummy, the one he left behind, the dummy Kandu brought to life to perform evil deeds, Mr. Wood, was the other dummy crafted from coffin wood and cursed alongside Slappy in the original backstory. This was Stein's expansion on that story. Aside from portraying the protagonist in the late 2000s Enter Horrorland online flash game, Mr. Wood has never been featured in a mainline Goosebumps entry following the character's first appearance in the original Goosebumps series, the first ever Night of the Living Dummy book, where Mr. Wood was run over by a steamroller and destroyed. Mahar and Kandu were brought to live action in Disney's 2023 Goosebumps adaptation. Despite this background being written for the SlappyWorld series, the special edition novel during this era seems to retcon this backstory, despite being released just years apart. But brief prologue aside, what about the actual story? I'm Slappy's Evil Twin stars a boy named Luke Harrison. His father makes horror movies and keeps a movie museum at home. There are even more references riddled throughout the collection. Slappy and Snappy arrive at the house, the same dolls crafted a century prior. And from there, things start to get strange. The fourth book, Please Do Not Feed the Weirdo, begins with Jordan Kepler visiting a carnival where he comes across a boy his age trapped in a cage. A sign next to it is marked, Please Do Not Feed the Weirdo. The boy is clearly hungry, so Kepler gives him some food, ignoring the warning. The boy turns into a monster, escaping the carnival. See, food allows the strange boy to turn into the creature, but not for long. When the food is done in his system, he turns back. So, the carnival escapee begins stalking Jordan, begging for more. Escape from Shutter Mansion is the 5th book in the SlappyWorld series. Riley Shiner lives near the infamous Shutter Mansion, a supposedly haunted house that inspired his favorite video game, Escape from Shutter Mansion. And although Riley loves the Escape from Shutter Mansion game, he's terrified of the real building. When Riley's class is assigned to go on and document an adventure, his group chooses to spend the night in Shutter Mansion. Riley is forced to go to this terrifying place, and worse, discovers that the mansion's ghost stories are more than just stories. The 6th entry featured a very compelling title and artwork to go along with it, The Ghost of Slappy. The main character, Shep Mooney, is used to dealing with strange things, as his basement is haunted by a ghost that no one else believes is real. Then Slappy enters Shep's life, and even more bizarre and frightening events begin happening. Shep accidentally kills Slappy, and is then not only haunted by the ghost in his basement, but the ghost of Slappy as well. The next book, number 7, is called It's Alive, It's Alive. In the story, Livy and her friend Gates hope their lifelike robot Francine will help them win a robotics competition. But when Francine starts acting in ways she was never programmed to, and the strange incidents begin to pile up, Livy must figure out what is happening before things get even more out of hand. The book's title, It's Alive, It's Alive, is an obvious reference to the words Dr. Frankenstein yells upon bringing his monster to life in the 1931 film adaptation of Mary Shelley's classic Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus. Interestingly, this connection between Frankenstein and evil robots was previously used by Stein in the Goosebumps Most Wanted series entry, Frankenstein's Dog. Book 8 is called The Dummy Meets the Mummy. And though this mummy isn't the same as the mummies from other Goosebumps entries, this installment could be considered the first real crossover in the Goosebumps series since the Horrorland series set in a shared universe with an overarching narrative, and is the only standalone Goosebumps crossover to date. In the story, Kathy O'Connor is helping prepare her father's haunted horror museum for a class overnight when an ancient, cursed mummy arrives at the museum. Even worse, Slappy is found outside the building. As curious kids, cursed artifacts, and supernatural forces are brought together under one roof, the overnight fun quickly turns terrifying. Revenge of the Invisible Boy is the 9th book in the SlappyWorld series. Though the title seems to suggest that this is the same Invisible Boy from past Goosebumps installments featuring the Visibly Challenged, this Invisible Boy is a different character entirely, just like the mummy in the previous book. In the story, Frankie Miller is the leader of a school magic club. After Ari, one of the club members, deliberately sabotages one of Frankie's tricks during a school performance, Frankie becomes determined to get even. When his club attends a show by the world-famous magician Mystical Marvin, Frankie sneaks backstage to learn Marvin's disappearing act isn't a trick at all, but the result of a mysterious potion. Frankie steals some of this formula and plans to use it on Ari, but Ari switches their drinks, leaving Frankie invisible instead. Though at first Frankie has fun enjoying being invisible, the fun quickly fades. The potion refuses to wear off, and Frankie begins to realize that his desire for revenge may have created a much bigger problem than he ever imagined. The 10th SlappyWorld installment is Diary of a Dummy, likely referencing one of the Goosebumps series' top competition for best-selling children's series contenders, Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Billy McGee, the main character, discovers the Slappy dummy, but this time the dummy isn't alone. Slappy's suitcase also contained a diary, and upon reading it, Billy discovers Slappy was searching for gold. Determined to never worry about finances again, Billy follows the clues in Slappy's diary, Only, upon doing so, he learns why he should have never opened that book. The 11th book, They Call Me the Night Howler, brings back Dr. Maniac for a third installment. Comic book fan Mason Brady and his sister visit the Comic Book Characters Hall of Fame Museum with their family. There, Mason meets one of his favorite superheroes, the Night Howler. He tells Mason that he is retiring from the job, unable to defeat his nemesis, Dr. Maniac. Night Howler gives Mason his costume and tells him that he can take up the mantle. Mason accepts and goes toe-to-toe with comic book supervillains as the Night Howler. The following book, number 12, was My Friend Slappy. Barton, the main character, cool name, spends most of his time being picked on by the school bullies, with only one friend, Lizzie. Everything changes when Barton's dad gives him a ventriloquist dummy named Slappy, hoping it will help Barton to become more confident. Bringing Slappy to life, the dummy desired to do evil deeds, and it seemed like the perfect way for Barton to finally stand up for himself and get revenge on the people who've made his life miserable. But Slappy becomes more unpredictable throughout the story, telling Barton he wants to hurt Lizzie so bad that Slappy would become Barton's only friend. And Barton realizes he might have made a big mistake. Book number 13 is Monster Blood is Back, where Sasha and her friend Nicole learn that their favorite television show is coming to their school to host a cooking competition. They can't wait to participate. Sasha and Nicole purchase a strange product called Monster Blood is Back, believing it could be a secret ingredient to help them win, for some reason. The girls quickly discover that the mysterious green slime begins growing larger and larger. Sasha and Nicole must find a way to stop the monstrous substance before it consumes the entire event, and their chance for victory. This is the 6th entry in the Monster Blood saga, the latest to date. In Book 14, 5th grade Zombies, Todd is headed from New York to live on a creepy old Wisconsin farm for a year while his parents are on a business trip. Todd quickly learns about the farm's legend, how a group of students visited and disappeared. Then, Todd starts seeing strange figures lurking about the corn at night. Were the stories true? The next book, Judy and the Beast, a clear reference to Beauty and the Beast, is the 15th in the series. The story's protagonist, Judy, sneaks along with her brother and father on a work trip up to the old hilltop mansion, where she discovers that the growling she's hearing certainly isn't the family dog. Book 16 is Slappy in Dreamland, referencing Alice in Wonderland and featuring one of the few instances in the new Slappy design actually looking creepy. Richie's mom studies dreams, and they jokingly hook her dream machine up to Richie's new Slappy doll. Then, Richie starts dreaming about Slappy coming to life, and so does his cousin. The doll is invading people's dreams and refusing to stop. Interestingly, though the title references Alice in Wonderland, the book itself seems to draw more inspiration from the Nightmare on Elm Street series, where Freddy invades people's dreams, and if you die in the dream, you die in real life too. Book number 17 is Haunting with the Stars. The title, another pop culture reference to one of America's top broadcast television shows. Murphy, the protagonist, has always dreamed of exploring the stars. When his class visits the famous Rayborn Observatory, Murphy can't wait to meet the legendary Dr. Sidney Rayburn. But when Murphy and his friends decide to explore on their own, they're transported far beyond Earth, to a bizarre world where the inhabitants have 2 heads. Now they're trapped on an alien planet, and every attempt to get home only seems to make things worse. Next, just in time for Halloween 2022, a longer hardcover novel, Slappy Beware, was released.
Goosebumps celebrates 30 years of fears with R.L. Stine's latest adventure. Slappy's diabolical origin story finally comes to light.
Try not to scream.
Where does evil come from? Find out in Slappy Beware.
Slappy Beware was released to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Goosebumps. As mentioned earlier, this novel reworks Slappy's backstory, eliminating the Kondu and Mahar characters entirely, despite being introduced in the very SlappyWorld series this new novel was tied into. The story is broken into 5 parts. Part 1 features an evil sorcerer named Ephraim Darkwell, who brings Slappy to life and tells him he must carry out an evil act every day or will fall asleep forever. Part 2 opens with Reggie Foreman giving a ventriloquist act at his school talent show. The doll he's using is named Mr. Wood, a reference to the Mr. Wood doll from both Night of the Living Dummy and I Am Slappy's Evil Twin, though it's revealed that Mr. Wood is a line of ventriloquist dummies in this story, and the dummy Reggie has turns out to actually be Slappy, not a Mr. Wood doll at all, and unleashes his powers on Reggie, bringing the other Mr. Wood dolls to life to take care of him. Part 3 showcases the idea from the beginning that Slappy must commit an evil act every day or fall asleep forever. Throughout this section, Slappy attempts to mess with a brand new kid, Bryce, but keeps having bad luck. Will Slappy's curse lift, or will he finally manage to do an evil act before it's too late? In Part 4, Darkwell appears before Slappy. Is the dummy's time up? After this, the story ends with an epilogue. The novel features several interesting elements, including Slappy as a protagonist, the first time since 1999's Slappy's Nightmare, and second time overall. The book also features R.L. Stine interviewing Slappy in a bonus section and full-color illustrations to go along with each part, printed in black and white for the physical copy. Slappy Beware fits well alongside the special edition tied into the previous series, Wanted, the Haunted Mask. Book 18 is Night of the Squawker. When protagonist Cooper's sister Anna is bitten by a bird, she begins acting strangely. Very strangely. Is Anna going crazy, or was the bird bite slowly transforming her into something otherworldly? And lastly, the final installment of the Goosebumps SlappyWorld book series is Book 19, 20 overall, Fright Night. In the final SlappyWorld book, Kelly Crosby and his family move to Great Newton, and on his first day at school he discovers a giant green monster named Squirm lives beneath the school, and everyone acts like that's completely normal. Every spring, the school's monster is allowed out of the basement for a celebration called Fright Night, where a student is the monster's special date for the evening. Most dates survive the event. Most. When Kelly unexpectedly finds himself chosen for the honor, he quickly learns that keeping a monster happy is a lot harder than it sounds. Those are the 19 SlappyWorld books and tie-in hardcover special edition. Though the writing style, cover art, character design, and series title were points of contention among many Goosebumps fans for being too childish, Goosebumps is at its best when it's mostly horror. The series still included many compelling entries and expanded on the backstories of fan-favorite Goosebumps characters while bringing to life some brand new ones as well.
I like stories where humans are the ones confused about what's going on. Stories that make you ask, who's the dummy now? Well, it ain't me!
There was no direct merchandise tied into the SlappyWorld book series, aside from several book collections. A neat collection included a fake hollow book for the SlappyWorld books to be stored inside. Most of the Goosebumps merchandise releases during this time, including backpacks, costumes, and more, were tied directly into the Goosebumps film, rather than the book series using the film's designs. And though again, the SlappyWorld book series was not directly tied into any of the following, the time period during the SlappyWorld book run was packed with Goosebumps media releases, including 2 feature films, 2 video games, and a television show. Though the Goosebumps film, directed by Rob Letterman, was released in 2015, towards the end of the Most Wanted run, the Most Wanted series was likely cancelled in favor of a series featuring designs closer to the film's designs for maximum cohesion between the mediums. Thus, the Goosebumps films are, perhaps, tied into the SlappyWorld book series more than any of the other series, despite using characters and elements from all of them. In the first film, Zach moves into a new house. His new next-door neighbor is revealed to be R.L. Stine, played by Jack Black. And when Zach and friends accidentally unleash Slappy,
You're giving me, what's the word? Goosebumps.
the evil dummy begins releasing all the other Goosebumps villains from their cursed manuscripts as well. Will Zach and friends, alongside the help of R.L. Stine, be able to save the city from the monsters before it's too late? The film was released to modest critical reception, earning 3 times its budget. Most Goosebumps merchandise during this time was for the Goosebumps film, including Slappy costumes and apparel, and thus there was not really any SlappyWorld merchandise released, just film merchandise. But the cohesive look for the characters between the mediums allowed the merchandise to count as book series merchandise as well. The second film was released 3 years after the first, this time directed by Ari Sandel, taking over for Letterman, who was directing Detective Pikachu at the time. This film followed a new cast of characters and a rehashing of the first plot. The only difference is that Slappy in the sequel mostly brings random Halloween costumes to life rather than releasing classic villains, though many of the costumes are referencing classic villains. In the film, friends Sunny and Sam find an unpublished Goosebumps manuscript in R.L. Stine's abandoned house. When they open it, they accidentally release Slappy, the evil ventriloquist dummy. Slappy initially acts friendly, helping the kids like getting revenge on bullies, potentially influencing the My Friend Slappy book. But soon, Slappy reveals his true nature. Wanting a family of his own, Slappy uses magic to bring Halloween decorations and costumes to life to wreak havoc on the town. Slappy then tries to use a Tesla coil to allow his monster magic over the town to become permanent. The kids find R.L. Stine and beg him to stop Slappy, as he is their only hope. Goosebumps 2: Haunted Halloween was received far worse than the original, with audiences feeling this movie very much phoned it in compared to the prior entry, with a far more childish tone and cheaper look. The second film also made 3 times its budget, but earned $50 million less. Some fans, however, felt the second film felt more like a proper Goosebumps adaptation than the first. Video games released during this time were also not directly tied to the SlappyWorld books, but used the film character designs just as the book series elected to. Goosebumps the game was released on just about every home console, including 3DS, alongside the release of the first film in 2015. The point-and-click adventure game allowed the player to navigate through eerie locations, interacting with popular Goosebumps characters and artifacts until, at last, the player comes face-to-face with Slappy and, alongside the help of R.L. Stine, stop the evil dummy. Though fan service throughout the game was very good, the game was reported to offer little challenge, and was not at all scary due to the point-and-click style of gameplay that seemed to try to avoid the important elements of tension and action. The next Goosebumps game was Goosebumps Night of Scares. This mobile game, developed by Cosmic Forces, directly tied into the first film. player is a character named Twist, made up for the game. In the game, Twist explores author R.L. Stine's haunted mansion. Slappy the dummy has escaped the manuscript and trapped Stine inside a magical typewriter. Guided by Stine's voice, Twist must survive stealth encounters, solve puzzles, and collect scattered book pages to trap the monsters back in their manuscripts.
Ah, the books. The Goosebumps. Just one won't do. This one is fun. Always good for a scare.
You're gonna try and put me in that book? That's not gonna... No!
At last, Twist uncovers the cuckoo clock of doom in the basement. Slappy was using the cursed object's time manipulation powers to loop the day, preventing himself from being permanently sealed away. However, Slappy clearly hadn't read the book. The clock forces targets to age backwards, and Slappy transforms back into the coffin he was carved from, and finally, back to a harmless wooden log. With Slappy defeated, Stine is freed and decides to use Twist's victory for the plot of his next book. A sequel, Goosebumps Dead of Night, released 5 years later, was actually an expanded home console port of the mobile game Night of Scares. Though Dead of Night was a slightly different game with far better graphics, it was essentially a reskin of the mobile game, though this time closely tied to the Goosebumps 2 film rather than the first, with some interesting brand new elements and scares. The player once again is the character named Twist, and the plot is largely unchanged at first. R.L. Stine is trapped inside a typewriter, and Slappy unleashes Goosebumps monsters.
I'm done playing nice. Why don't you stick around and say hi to my newest friend? Surprise, dummy!
Twist's only hope is to collect the missing pages of Slappy's magical book and find a way to stop the evil dummy. The story begins in Stine's house, where Twist must avoid monsters like Murder the Clown, the lawn gnomes, and graveyard ghouls while searching for the pages. Although Twist's mission is successful, Slappy escapes. Twist then tracks Slappy to Dr. Brewer's observatory and greenhouse. There, the player uncovers Dr. Brewer's plant experiments. In the final chapter, Twist arrives at the massive Tesla coil complex ripped straight from the film. After battling through waves of monsters and climbing the structure, Twist confronts Slappy in the game's final boss fight.
You remember my friends from earlier, right? Will you survive?
Slappy is ultimately defeated and destroyed.
No! I refuse to go back!
Fans regard the story and gameplay as interesting, with good atmosphere. But the enemy AI and puzzles could be too easy to trick or solve, with gameplay occasionally growing monotonous. The ending was the largest point of contention, with many feeling it was too abrupt, and many questions were left unanswered. Despite this, audiences seemed to overwhelmingly agree that this modern Goosebumps game was better than the other modern entries. The mobile game Goosebumps Horror Town, developed by Pixowl, was released in 2017 between the releases of the Night of Scares and Dead of Night games. This mobile game is a Sim-style city-building game featuring all the classic Goosebumps villains and is packed full of references from the original series to Most Wanted, though interestingly the game mostly avoids SlappyWorld and the new series designs, despite its release coinciding with the release of the new books. The gameplay is simple and meant to be addictive for all ages of Goosebumps fans. In late 2022, as the SlappyWorld book series was wrapping up with its final few entries, as Goosebumps celebrated 30 years, and after rumors upon rumors of development, Disney announced a brand new Goosebumps television show, the first since the uber-popular adaptation from the 90s. The straight-to-streaming service would air on Disney Plus starting in October 2023, a few months after the final SlappyWorld book, and would follow a group of teens as they encounter classic cursed Goosebumps artifacts and villains like the Haunted Mask, Cuckoo Clock of Doom, and of course, Slappy the Dummy. All the cursed items seem to trace back to the Biddle Mansion, where the teens put together the pieces of just how their parents were involved with a disappearance all those years ago. As mentioned, the characters from the SlappyWorld series, Kondu and Mahar, were included as main instigators of the plot, with Kondu's spirit being the one to possess the Slappy doll. Kondu's ultimate but convoluted goal was to end all wars on Earth by using a Tower of 1,000 Souls, burning 1,000 people alive to unleash supernatural forces. The forces would be so scary and powerful that mankind would be forced to come together to fight against Kondu's army, one common enemy. He's a good guy through doing bad stuff, with the goal to be ultimately defeated to save humanity. See, it doesn't really make any sense. For the series, Slappy was given a brand new design, completely different from the film and current book series. In fact, all of the villains were adapted with brand new looks, with the showrunners attempting to place Goosebumps into the modern world through realism. Unfortunately, the redesigns, tone, writing, story, and acting were all points of contention among fans. A more adult Goosebumps was what many fans wanted, but many felt instead of trying to deliver an actual scary experience with the classic characters, the show ended up feeling like an edgy sort of Riverdale, with a similar fear factor to Pretty Little Liars. Barely any. Further, the series elected to use the names of the books for each episode, though barely featured the respective villains in the episodes, if at all. The worst offender is the episode titled Welcome to Horrorland, which had absolutely nothing to do with Horrorland. A major letdown. Luckily, the series was greenlit for a season 2 to be released starting in 2025, but Disney chose to market the second season as a separate show entirely with a brand new cast, this time called Goosebumps: The Vanishing. The series, inspired by Stranger Things and starring David Schwimmer as Dr. Brewer, would include elements from the original book series, as well as adapt several Series 2000 stories. Though Goosebumps SlappyWorld was not directly tied into the film, games, or television shows released during the book series run, most of the media released shared a similar design to the book series, allowing for them to be connected, save for Disney's Goosebumps streaming show, which did not feature similar design elements and rather used characters invented for SlappyWorld to build the foundation of the narrative. Regardless, the cohesive design between mediums allowed the SlappyWorld series, a book series that had no direct merchandise, to take part in one of the greatest Goosebumps merchandise campaigns and brand pushes of all time. So, how do Scholastic and R.L. Stine follow up the SlappyWorld series that was released alongside 2 feature films, 2 video games, a streaming series, and one of Goosebumps' largest merchandising campaigns? The answer is compelling. Many fans cited Slappy exhaustion, as the character played the main villain in both Goosebumps movies and games, as well as the first season of Disney's Goosebumps show. Because the character was also clearly the main focal point of the SlappyWorld series, present in every single book, even if just introducing and concluding the story. Many fans of the Goosebumps series were growing tired of seeing Slappy over and over, feeling the character had become too magical and kid-friendly in the growing oversaturation of Slappy stories.
I'm literally crushing you right now.
Can't believe you're leading to a puppet.
Right? And I'm not even using my magical powers.
Again, the character works best when he is horror only. The freakier Slappy is, the better the character works. The SlappyWorld series, despite featuring good living dummy entries, mostly showcased Slappy at his worst, with childish, comedy-focused dialogue. This use of the character, along with Oversaturation, burned fans out on the Slappy character. And fans were very vocal about this.
Slappy is my favorite character that I ever created, and my least favorite.
Why do you say that?
My favorite because everyone likes him so much. At Halloween time, thousands of kids go out as Slappy. That's really a thrill. He's my least favorite because I'm sick of him. I had to write 15 books about a dummy.
Thus, the next Goosebumps series would take inspiration from the Hall of Horrors series, which itself was born from oversaturation of popular Goosebumps characters. This new series would feature little to no mainline popular characters, focusing more on cryptids. And most importantly, Stein wanted to take Goosebumps in a scarier route than the overly kid-friendly writing of the series from the 2010s. In 2023, R.L. Stein would once again resurrect his fan-favorite horror comedy series in Goosebumps, House of Shivers. Goosebumps SlappyWorld was an interesting brand experiment, combining the designs of the Goosebumps film for maximum cohesion with focusing the series on fan-favorite characters, Slappy the Evil Dummy, similar to how Scholastic's resurrection of Goosebumps in the late 2000s focused on Horrorland. Though ultimately fans, new and old, felt the evil dummy became more and more oversaturated with an ever-growing list of powers causing the character to become less interesting and scary over time, the series was released alongside a strong run of digital media and gave fans plenty of unique and interesting Goosebumps tales from SlappyWorld.